Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into a really fascinating collection of ancient narratives. We're focusing specifically on stories about something pretty fundamental, the consequences of our actions.
Exactly. And our sources for this, well, they're excerpts from the Tayojanavatthu. You can think of it as a collection of ancient Buddhist stories. They're preserved in Pali, that's an old Indian language, maybe close to what the Buddha himself spoke, and also in Thai and, of course, English translations. At their heart, these stories illustrate karma, the idea that what we do creates ripples, causes that lead to effects, sometimes later in this life, sometimes, well, much later.
Okay, so we have these three different accounts, groups of monks all heading to see the Buddha in Jetavana, right? And each group runs into something really bizarre. Let's start with the first one. They're in a village just gathering alms, and suddenly a fire breaks out. Okay, maybe not so unusual. But then a piece of burning thatch flies up. And a crow flies right through it. Gets caught, burns, falls dead. Right there.
Wow. Yeah, that's more than just a coincidence, isn't it?
Definitely. You can see why the monks would think that.
Absolutely. The text says they saw it as significant, tied to the crow's past actions, its karma.
Yeah.
They couldn't figure it out themselves, so naturally they decided, we need to ask the Buddha. It really shows this ancient view of sort of a cosmic accountability. Things aren't just random.
Right. Then there's the second group of monks. Totally a different setting. They're on a boat, sailing.
Yeah, and smooth sailing, apparently, until suddenly the boat just stops, middle of the sea.
No storm, nothing. Just stop.
And the sailors, well, they immediately jump to superstition, don't they? Someone on board must be bad luck.
It's pretty quick, yeah. And their solution, drawing lots. Straws, actually.
It seems so arbitrary drawing straws to decide someone's fate.
Well,
And incredibly, the lot falls 3 times on the navigator's young wife.
that's awful. Just terrible. The navigator, he's obviously distressed, but the crew.
They pressure him, force him to act.
And his wife, terrified, screaming. They throw her overboard with a pot filled with sand tied to her.
It's a horrific image.
And then the monks watch as fish and turtles immediately devour her.
Yeah,
Again, you completely understand why the monks thought, this isn't just chance. There's something deeper going on here.
definitely. Fear, superstition,
Yeah.
leading to this irreversible tragedy. It confronts them with something that feels deeply unjust, pushing them to seek that deeper explanation from the Buddha.
Okay, group 3. 7 monks this time. They take shelter for the night in a cave. Seems sensible enough.
Right? Simple act. But then this massive boulder rolls down and completely seals the entrance.
Track.
Just like that. Imagine the fear.
Yeah.
And the text really emphasizes their suffering 7 days. Darkness, hunger.
And people tried to help, right? Villagers.
Yeah, the local villagers tried for 7 days, apparently, but couldn't shift the boulder. It seemed impossible.
So it really highlights the kind of inescapable nature of their situation.
Until, on the 7th day, poof, the boulder just rolls away by itself.
Wow.
So, like the others, these monks are convinced their ordeal has to be linked to something they did in the past. They need answers.
So all 3 groups eventually make it to the Buddha. They tell him these incredibly strange and disturbing stories. Where does he even begin? Let's take the crow first, the burning crow.
Well, what's striking is how direct the Buddha's explanation is. He says point blank, this happened because of something the crow did in a past life in Benares.
Okay, so what was it?
In that past life, the crow was actually a farmer, and he had an ox that, well, refused to work one day.
Okay, frustrating for a farmer, I get that. But his reaction.
It was extreme, shockingly violent, as you said.
Yeah.
In his anger, the farmer tied straw around the ox's neck
Oh no.
and set it on fire, killed the animal.
That's
It
horrific.
was deliberate cruelty, born from intense anger.
Mm-hmm.
And the Buddha connects that act, that specific moment of anger and violence,
Directly to the crow burning.
directly. He explains that because of that evil deed, the farmer suffered for a very long time in a hell realm. And this burning death as a crow in midair, which the text says happened 7 times, was the leftover result, the final echo of that cruelty.
7 times.
Yeah.
Wow. It really drives home how these actions, especially driven by strong negative feelings, can echo across lifetimes.
Precisely. A long chain of consequences.
So what about the woman, the navigator's wife? Such a brutal end. What was her story?
Again, the Buddha traces it back. Past life, also in Benares, she was a housewife, and she really, really disliked her husband's dog.
Okay. Just disliked it.
Well, it gets complicated. The text adds a layer The dog had actually been her husband in a previous life.
Whoa, okay. So the dog was just being loyal, following her around.
Exactly. An echo of their past bond.
Yeah.
But it annoyed her, especially because neighborhood kids teased her about this dog always trailing her.
Still, annoyance is one thing, but what she did...
It escalated. She didn't just shoot away. She plotted. This calculation is what's so disturbing.
Yeah. The deception. Pretending to be kind to the dog at the watering place.
Luring it in, then tying a pot filled with sand to its neck and throwing it in the water.
Yeah.
Drowning it.
Just heartless. Pure cruelty to a trusting animal.
And the consequence. The Buddha reveals she suffered immensely in hell for a long, long time because of that act. And her fate in this life being thrown overboard with that sand-filled pot.
It's the exact same method.
The exact same. A remaining consequence, a karmic echo. And the text says this happened to her in 100 lifetimes.
100 lifetimes. That's almost unimaginable, the persistence of consequences.
It really underlines that the effects aren't always immediate, are they? They can ripple out in ways we can't foresee.
Okay, finally. The 7 monks trapped in the cave. What do? 7 days starving.
Theirs was also a shared past action, again of Benares. They were young cowherd boys.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, maybe just kids messing around. They saw a big monitor lizard
Okay.
and chased it. It ran into its burrow, which happened to have 7 holes, 7 entrances.
7 boys, 7 holes. I see where this might be going.
They decided to catch it the next day. So each boy blocked 1 hole with a branch.
And
then
yeah,
they forgot. Just completely forgot about the lizard trapped inside.
well, that's careless, but maybe not intentionally cruel at first.
That seems to be the point. It wasn't necessarily malice, but neglect. The impact of their action or inaction is what mattered.
For how long did they forget?
7 days. Just like their later ordeal.
When they remembered, what happened to the lizard?
They went back, remembered, opened the holes, and found the poor thing starving. Just skin and bones, the text said.
Did they kill it then?
No, actually. They felt pity, apparently, and let it go.
So they didn't kill it, but it suffered for 7 days because of them. How does that link to them being trapped?
The Buddha explains that because they caused the lizard to be without food for 7 days, they, in turn, experienced being without food for 7 days. And because it was a shared act, they experienced the consequence together. The text says this happened across 14 lifetimes.
14 lifetimes of experiencing that same 7-day starvation, even though they let it go in the end.
Right. It shows the consequence matching the action in duration, and that even neglect has repercussions.
These stories are just so vivid, you can absolutely see why one of the monks then asks the big question, right?
Exactly. After hearing all this, one monk basically asks, okay, so is there anywhere we can go to escape this stuff?
Yeah.
Can we hide? Fly up into the sky, dive deep in the ocean, go live in a mountain cave? Is there any escape from the results of bad deeds?
A fundamental question, and the Buddha's answer, pretty blunt, wasn't it?
Completely unequivocal,
Yeah.
he says. No, there's no such place. Full stop.
No escape hatch.
None. He really emphasizes it. No spot on earth, not in the sky, not deep in the sea, offers any refuge from the results of your negative actions, your negative karma.
It doesn't matter where you go physically.
Precisely. He says even if you could sit in the sky, or enter the deepest ocean trench, or hide away in a mountain range, it won't shield you. He even says there isn't a space the size of a hair tip, anywhere, where you can stand and be free from the consequences of your past bad deeds.
Wow. That's a powerful image. Utterly inescapable accountability.
That's a very sobering message about cause, effect, and responsibility.
It really is. And the source notes that hearing these explanations, these stories, led to the monk's conversion and benefited everyone there. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the main things you think our listeners should take away from these ancient tales?
Well, the absolute core theme running through all three is that principle of cause and effect. Karma. Every action, big or small, intentional or even neglectful sometimes, sets something in motion, creates a cause that will eventually have an effect. There's no escaping that link.
And the stories themselves are just so memorable, aren't they? The burning crow, the poor woman with the sand pot, the monks and that lizard.
Right. They use this really vivid, sometimes quite disturbing imagery to make the point stick. It's not just an abstract philosophical idea.
It feels very real, very visceral.
Exactly. And these stories, passed down for centuries, they still offer these profound insights, I think. Insights into how our actions work, their long-term impact, the interconnectedness of it all.
It definitely makes you pause and think, doesn't it? About maybe the less obvious consequences of what we do, even small things.
Yeah, how seemingly minor actions, maybe a flash of anger like the farmers, or a moment of carelessness like the boys, could create these unforeseen ripples down the line.
It certainly prompts a deeper think about personal responsibility, about the weight of our choices, something to definitely mull over.